I am fully under the impression at this point that J.J. Abrams should no longer let trilogies be handled by other people. He needs to do all 3 movies if you're going to do a trilogy and just leave it at that. Because Star Trek Beyond, it didn't hit and feel like the other 2 Star Trek movies. And maybe because Into Darkness was so good, thank you for being Dick Cumberbatch. But Beyond just felt like it's just an okay movie, and we're just doing it because why not? And what to say, it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Like, I didn't hate the movie, I liked it, but I just like, it's fine, it's cool, it's a 3rd movie, we're good. Yeah. And on this episode of Movie Breakdowns, I'm going to review Star Trek Beyond. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Movie Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Movie Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. What's Movie Breakdowns? A movie review series. We look at new and old movies, give them a grade, 8 to up, plus and minus a do count. And if movie want me to review, let me know. Please put in the comment section below, and I get to as best I can. Also, the Patreon/Ali Zakka, and on that Patreon for just for $2 a month. Wherever you request me to do, you jump in front of everybody. I get to immediately post it up there because you're paying for my services. Also, much more stuff on there like trailer reaction, trailer reviews, much more content on the Patreon. Now, let's go ahead and get into today's review of Star Trek Beyond from the year 2016. I had to look down IMDb to be on the safe side on that one, guys. But what is the movie about? So this movie is about a continuation of the Into Darkness. At the end of Into Darkness, they went on a 5-year journey into space, and this is like year 3 going to 4 pretty much, as far as, or they've been on 3 years and in the 4th year, in that range of their voyage into space, the crew of the Enterprise. And it's weighing on them. It's really weighing on them, especially Captain Kirk. And as they're kind of pondering what their next steps are in life and when this is all over, what they want to continue doing, they get sent on another mission to rescue a group of civilians, and that mission turns into a death trap per se for the crew, and it's up to the USS Enterprise, just to say, to try to survive it and come out on top, and also stop a guy who is trying to kill a whole spaceship colony. So that's pretty much the gist of the Star Trek Beyond. If I say Star Trek Enterprise, but Star Trek Beyond. And here's my thoughts. I thought it was fine. I thought this movie was fine. Things I like that you get to see Dr. Bones and Spock interact with each other in this movie a lot more. They actually get stranded together for a part of the movie, so that was kind of cool seeing. You get to see Captain Kirk interact with Chekhov more in this movie. Simon Pegg is more of a focal point in this movie as well. They really put him more at the forefront in this movie. He's working with an alien chick named Jayla, who, from the trailers and from the posters, she looked like a really cool character. I remember seeing this trailer and posters years ago, and on the cover she is there, and I thought Jayla was going to have more of an impact in this movie. And this is one of my negatives, she doesn't. And I'm really disappointed about that, because she has such a cool design, and her fight scenes are pretty cool, but underneath that surface of her being just a badass, it's not really much else there. She has a backstory, but you don't really get invested in the backstory. It's just kind of like she talks, and it takes about 2 or 3 minutes for her to explain her backstory, and then it's like, okay. And when she fights this guy that we had no idea who he was until she fights him, you're like, okay. And that was it. Matter of fact, the man doesn't die. She escapes him, and that's it. That is exactly what happens. But everybody else, you still have Spock and Uhura. You have their relationship, and that's a part of something that's at this point in this third movie, it's just kind of like they touch on it still. They probably having a breakup because Spock is sad that Spock Prime died, which in real life, not just in this movie, but taken from this movie, in real life, Nimoy, get his actual name real quick. Leonard Nimoy, he passes away in the year 2015, and this movie does a homage to him. Matter of fact, multiple times they bring up that, you know, Leonard Nimoy passed away, and this is kind of like us tapping our hat to him. And Spock has a moment where he's like, well, maybe I should pick up what Spock Prime was doing to preserve my family and to preserve my alien heritage, because his future self passed away, which I guess I can see how they could play on your psyche and think like, man, my future self died, what am I doing in my life? But he's gonna break up with his whole girlfriend because his older self died, and then they get back together. So it's like, what's the point of that? When he goes to rescue her, actually, I don't think they actually ever even clean that up. Dr. Bones and Kirk talks about it, and they tell like, dude, you're breaking up with, you know, like, what you doing here? And then he goes like, I gotta rescue her. He rescued her, and they don't ever come back to like the actual conversation. It's just like, yeah, they got that resolved. It's like, okay, that's another down part of the series as a whole, that relationship, when I'm talking about my complete series review on this, but their relationship as a whole, kind of just like, they have any weight to it. In this movie, the villain is not as strong as the other two villains in the other movie, and partially because they waited till like the third act and the very end of it through a video to talk about who this guy was and what he's about, and he's upset because he got stranded and the planet turned him to alien, or the area he was in, the environment turned him to an alien, and in the way he got turned back to normal, he had to drain the power or the essence of other people to turn back to a normal self, and he's upset for being stranded out there, and you're like, okay, why are you mad, bro? They thought you was dead, and they found you. Why are you attacking people? What reason? I don't know how Carl became the power. Like, it doesn't make sense how he got the power. Like, I know he was the captain of the USS Franklin years ago, but like, where'd all the other aliens come from? They're not all his crewmates, and even though it's a cool design with the killer bees and the honeybees, aliens and their formation, what's the actual purpose? You destroying this planet full of people was the cause suffered because you got stranded out on a mission that the Star Trek, that the Federation wanted you to do, so you were upset because they asked you to do a mission that you wouldn't do it, and you're a soldier, and he's like, there's shit, no war. Be like, why? The main villain, Crawl's motivation in the movie is not that strong, and you really just don't care about it, to be honest. Some other cool things I did like was the space station they went to reminded me a lot of Mass Effect. I do like that. It just took me back to Mass Effect, and it just looked like a really cool design. And then props to that. The cast is still strong. The cast is fine, but that's pretty much it regarding this. I have my thoughts on it. Music. The music is interesting. The original movie score is okay, but then when you get into like Fight the Power and the Beastie Boys is playing in the movie, you're like, what? Where is this coming from? And then Beastie Boys is actually a big integral plot point in this movie, and you're just like, did we? I guess, sure. All right, Justin Lin, sure. Why is licensed music for? And it's one of the Beastie Boys actually used for a classical joke. It's like, is this classical music? So like, I think it is. But like, why Beastie Boys and Fight the Power? I don't understand. I think that's Public Enemy, Fight the Power. But I don't understand why they're, and Beastie Boys is Sabotage by Beastie Boys playing. And I'm just like, why is this song playing in the movie? It just threw me off. It really did. The final conclusion of the movie is fine. Other than that, everything else is fine. It's fine. The movie is 2 hours and 7 minutes. I think that's great. I think that's solid for this movie. Doesn't need to be longer than that. And oh, sorry, that was Star Trek regular. Star Trek Beyond is 2 hours and 2 minutes. My bad. Star Trek Beyond is 2 hours and 2 minutes. Star Trek regular is 2 hours and 7 minutes. When I went and looked up Nimoy's name. Let's go ahead and get into the box office and director. So as far as the budget in this movie had a budget of $185 million, and it grossed worldwide $334 million plus. So it made its money's back. The director, Justin Lin, he definitely directed differently than J.J. Abrams did. Like, lens flare's not all in the movie like in the first two movies. The camera design and the way the movie shifts and shakes during certain action scenes is a lot different than the way J.J. Abrams did. It's a different style of movie. You can tell watching these two, like, okay, there are different movies. As far as storyline though, I did feel like this storyline did fall. Like, this adventure for the U.S. Enterprise was perfect with the other two movies. Like, I think like it would have felt perfectly fine as a trilogy. Like, I don't think it's bad as a trilogy. It just seemed like its own movie, except for like a few things that they touched on in the first two movies. They touched on in this movie. Let's go ahead and get into cast and characters here. So Chris Pine as Captain James Kirk. In this movie, Chris Pine's character, Captain Kirk, which I think Chris Pine did a good job playing Kirk, so props to him. But as Captain Kirk himself, he's dealing with his birthday's coming up again, and because his birthday is also the same day his dad died, it weighs on him, and he's thinking about what he's doing with life, and he's thinking about like whether or not the Enterprise is something he wants to do. And I do like that take on him, but like, this is his mission. He didn't really sign up because he wanted to sign up. He signed up because he was asked to, and he went and did it because why not? So I did like that little take on it. Him having a different mindset of everything at the beginning of the movie, but by the end of the movie came around, he's the same James Kirk that he was in the first two movies. Somebody really risk his life to save others. So that happens. If you heard that noise, that's the train, guys. Sorry. And then we have Zachary Quinto, who plays Commander Spock. I think Quinto did a good job as Spock. And then as far as Spock character, he's the same guy in the first two movies. In each movie, he's thinking about death every single time. The first movie, he lost his planet. The second movie, he's about to die. In this movie, Spock Prime dies. And it was like the same trope, not the same trope, but the same plot point for him, dealing with death and emotions in all three movies. Like, nothing else changed about him. The only cool thing that he get to be paired with Bones this time, and him and Bones are pretty much hip to hip in this movie. Which Carl Urban, who I think did a good job, played Dr. Bones, who is probably one of my favorite characters in this series. Thought he did great, and it's cool to see him get more of a plot point, and be more into the action in this movie. Which he's like, I'm not a fighter, I'm a doctor, but whatever, I'll go ahead and do it because the main guy. And I do like this part, the fact that Spock gets injured in this movie. He can't be the full-fledged weapon, warrior, combat competitive person for the group. Everybody else has to step up. Now, I do like that a lot in this movie. I thought that was kind of neat that everybody else kind of pulled more weight in this movie and let Spock take the background a little bit. Joe Saldana as Lieutenant Aura. She is definitely more in this movie. I think Zoe Saldana did a good job, and she's definitely more prominent in this movie. She's more of a talking point and trying to be more of a mediator between the main guy, the main bad guy who was Crawl, and what's going on. And she really, her and Sulu really do work together more in this movie, and I thought she was fine. In this movie. There's a scene with her and this other lady who I just appeared out of nowhere, and she's walking with Ura, and all of a sudden she gets left behind the room, which such a sting where everybody else, like, they just let her stay in that room for the plot point so they can show the destruction of the weapon in this movie. The MacGuffin, I should say. Simon Pegg as Montgomery Scotty. Pegg is good. It was cool. Simon Pegg's character is fine. John Cho as Sulu. He was cool in this movie as well. He didn't have that much action scenes that he had in the first. The first one he was on display, like kicking butt. And this one he just kind of there. Anton Yelchin as Chekhov. He was fine. He was fine as well. Now, two characters that are new in this movie is Idris Elba, who plays Crawl, which Idris Elba's character Crawl, I didn't care about him at all, and what his abilities were, how he became the way he looked, like all of it just did not care. And within the video and the little backstory they gave within like the last 30 minutes of the movie, they gave this little backstory that wasn't really like fleshed out, just kind of like just toss it in here. This is where I am, and it really was a video that Kirk and the rest of the crew kept looking at over and over again, and Ura's like, wait a minute. That's Crawl. That's him. And I was like, is that Idris Elba? And sure enough, it was Idris Elba. And then at the end of the movie, he stopped looking like his alien counterpart and looked like himself. And I was like, how did he turn back to normal and got back his regular complexion? And I was like, what happened here? He looked completely different, in the ship. And then he looked like this. And apparently he absorbed everybody else's life essence. But I'm just like, how did he follow these people? And another thing, they zapped their whole crew onto the U.S. Franklin. So at one point in the movie, everybody escapes the planet they were stranded on, get back to the colony, the space colony that Krolov was trying to destroy. And the crew that got zapped onto the U.S. Franklin just kind of disappeared. Like, only people you see is the main crew. And the U.S. Enterprise had a giant squad at the beginning of the movie. So it threw me off, and Cove was able to change back to near normal, and I was like, I don't believe it. I just can't believe it. Anyway, yeah, as a villain, I didn't care about him. It was okay. And then Sophia Boutella, who played Jayla. I thought Jayla was a cool design character, and I think Sophia did her well. I just wish the writing for Jayla was stronger, and wish it gave us more backstory. And heck, we could have had a flashback for Jayla talking about when she tried to escape calls earlier in the movie, and that when it was with her father stood there and saved her. Like, just a quick flashback of like her father pushing her and like, go, I'll fight this guy. And we see the guy who kills her dad. So when we get to see that fight later in the movie, it means more weight, and maybe her actually kill the guy or knock the guy out versus just running away from him, because there's no final conclusions to that. They escape and that's it. And I guess it's her facing her fears, but she also had a very strong crew around her that could help out. And she doesn't really join the crew at the end, but she does go to the academy. So if they made a fourth movie, hopefully Sophia would have got more of a part. But as far as just a badass character, yeah, J-Lo played the badass character for sure. Like, badass, kind of like I'm myself. But as far as like other than that, that was all she was. And that's about it as far as cast. Okay, any other thoughts here? No, I think I pretty much said everything. There's some few. The CGI is not as strong in this movie. I will say that as far as CGI, there's times you can tell like that's computer animated, and it shows at certain points. Like the first two movies had better CGI to me than this movie, so that tells you something. The licensed music part for a classical joke, other than that, it's okay. It's okay. Alright. Is this a Friday night movie? No, it's not a Friday night movie. You're good passing on this one. And grading time. I'm going to grade the movie Star Trek Beyond a C-, 70%. I think the first movie was solid, a better movie than this one, but Into Darkness was best of all of them. J.J. Abrams taking a step down to produce it and let Justin Lin direct this movie, I felt like hurt this movie in a sense, because they're two different styles and the villain wasn't as strong, the CGI is not as great. Other than that, it's fine. The acting is good across the board. Plot point stories that, you know, kind of got brought back up again from the other movies, but at the end of the day, they all decided to stay a part of the U.S. enterprise and continue to finish their mission. So it's a movie about fatigue and just, oh, we're refreshing everything. So this mission gets us all back refreshed. But other than that, the storyline was okay. Like, I would say one thing about these Star Trek movies, I never knew how they were going to end. So I do give it props for that. But yeah, as far as like how the movie goes and pacing of it, and the pacing of it, just like the first 20 minutes hit you so fast. After that, it was like, okay, well, sure. And another thing about this movie that kind of bothered me was some of the character decisions. So early in the movie, Chris Pine was sent on a mission to go out a little further to help this people who are stranded, and they bring the lady with them, and the lady came with her, ended up double crossing them early in the movie. But it was like there's no reason for her to come aboard. Like, oh, you come aboard, come on up. No, she just shows up on the ship with them, and it's in the captain's log, and you're like, what the heck? Also, Marcus's daughter from the second movie, she's not in this movie at all. Let me pull this up. Her name was Carol Marcus. Carol Marcus is not in this movie at all. At all. She's completely gone, and you're like, what happened to Carol? And I think that's part of the problem could have been with heck, he could have replaced her, but the fact he had two different directors, maybe one director didn't want to use Carol Marcus in this movie, and JJ did. So like, I didn't like that. But I will say this: there is no like women stripping down in this movie or no sex scene in this movie, and it's kind of different take how JJ Abrams, his first two movies, had like scenes where Captain Kirk is getting in bed with the women and women are in their bras and panties. And this movie, there's none of that. There's none of that at all. So good for that. But yeah, it's a C-. It's a 70%. It's fine. The villain's not as fleshed out to me. He's not a strong villain, and the CGI is not as strong in certain spots. I would say that. And some of the storyline for characters it's not as strong either, like Jayla. But other than that, it's fine. You're gonna watch this movie, you'll be okay. Like, I won't waste my Friday night on it, probably like a Saturday day, but you'll be okay. C-. If you guys seen Star Trek Into Darkness, no, sorry. If you guys seen Star Trek Beyond, what did you think? I'm still thinking about Into Darkness because that movie was so good. I'm gonna watch that one again pretty soon here. Benedict Cumberbatch, gosh, yes. But Star Trek Beyond, if you seen it, what did you think? Please put in the comment section below. And that, see you guys next episode of Movie Breakdowns, and keep being awesome. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If there's a review you want me to watch or do, let me know. Please put it in the comment section below this video. Also, you want to watch the last episode of Movie Breakdowns, it's right there. Just gotta click on it and you'll be able to watch it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Love y'all, and keep being awesome.